I sense that the pro-Israel lobby is on the brink of collapse. They are desperate for allies, right? And they're so desperate for allies that they're forcing them away. Bibi Netanyahu is committing a genocide, and Ben Shapiro sat down with him last month. And do you guys think he pressed Bibi Netanyahu on the point of a genocide? It is pre-planned. It is not organic. The supporters are not organic. The questions are not organic.
Candace Owens is convinced that the pro-Israel lobby in the United States is on the brink of collapse, and hey, I'd like nothing more than that. It'd be the Christmas gift of the ages. And in this clip, she gets into how this plays into the recent MAGA civil war with Zionists like Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin trying to cancel Tucker Carlson, why these people are acting so desperate, and why they don't exactly have the best standards for who and who you can't platform. So let's get right into it. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Now, I want to also show you what Ben said about me, because it's so outrageous and it's so dishonest that we actually should process what is happening here, okay? This is a watershed moment. Ben does not have it together. He is very insecure, and he's going on the attack against Megyn Kelly by lying about what I said and then forcing her to react to the evil of what I never said. Here's what Ben said.
We're in a business where people comment on what we say publicly. Again, this is why I think you and I differ on our angle with regard to, for example, Candace Owens. I think that what Candace Owens is doing right now is evil. It is evil what she is doing right now. Okay, and I say that again.
But what?
Because
like I didn't opine on whether it's evil or not, but my position is it's really none of my business. And
why is it? But I have a question. Why is it none of your business? I mean, you comment on these things for a living.
I'm not mother of the internet.
No, but if this were on the left and somebody were accusing Charlie Kirk of his wife having murdered him, I assume that you would be talking about it.
Is that what Candace is accusing Erica of?
Yes.
Of murdering her own husband?
She's accusing TPUSA insiders and other members of the right wing, including Seth Dillon, of being involved in the murder of Charlie Kirk, yes.
Absolutely untrue. I've seen every episode. This is a total lie. I have, reason to believe that Ben Shapiro knows it's a lie, and he cares more about the narrative than the truth, as do all Hasbara-obsessed Zionist stooges. It's absolutely untrue. Candace has been very charitable to Erica Kirk and not levied such accusations at her, even when so many people within kind of the conspiratorial community have done that. Have said, hey, Candace, you need to focus more on Erica Kirk. She was clearly involved. Candace has said nothing of the sort. She also hasn't said Seth Dillon and people within Turning Point USA are responsible for his death. Yeah, she's brought up some things where she said, hey, Charlie was betrayed. He was clearly turning against Zionism and turning against Israel. We have that in his own writing via the text she divulged, but never blaming them or saying that they were involved in his actual murder. She has raised some things I don't disagree with, but this is just a plain lie. And what else should we expect from Shapiro? He lies for a living.
It's just, I don't even know how to respond to it because it just never happened. It's so crazy. He's not even anywhere near what's happened. Anybody who's watched this show, I actually was getting flack from my audience for not covering Erica's past or speaking about her parents.
Yep.
I said she gave one of the most consequential speeches, and I have focused my investigation on Turning Point USA and why they're telling certain lies. Seth Dillon, I told the truth that Seth Dillon lied about the Hamptons meeting and that he was pressuring Charlie about the topic of Israel. I never once accused Seth Dillon of murdering Charlie Kirk. So what's he actually doing here, right? Obviously, there's a lot of layers that we should peel back, and it's important that we do it. The least interesting part of this is the fact that he's lying through his teeth. That's implied he's a Zionist. But there's a lot more that's happening that meets the eye, because Ben Shapiro was effectively the final boss of the pro-Israel lobby, and it's because he never comes out and says what he means. He's kind of like more of a behind-the-scenes person, and we're now watching him come undone in real time, because no matter who you are, in this age of digital media, it is simply not a good idea to lie through your teeth, okay?
Certainly so. It's so much easily disprovable than it ever was in the past, and Candace will bring receipts. That's her whole repertoire. That's her whole persona. That's her whole appeal to the people that love and follow her. It's just irrefutable. And to me, the interesting thing about this, and I agree with her, by the way, is not only that he lied about this, but that he's trying to steer Megyn Kelly and manipulate her into taking his side in this squabble, despite knowing Ben's not stupid. He knows that Megyn Kelly is a friend to both Candace and Ben Shapiro and doesn't view like she has to take a side in this. Now, whether you do or not is not the question. I would like to take a side in who's right when it comes to who betrayed Charlie, who clearly lied to him, who was wrong about trying to lionize him as a rigid Zionist despite knowing better in his final days. I have a clear position on that. But Megyn doesn't. But you're trying to manipulate her to your side specifically to try to win back favor on the right that you have so lost. And it's clear why you lost it. Because you're Israel first. You're essentially a foreign operative. We see through you, Ben.
Wrong time, 2025. Before you get the lie out, the internet is going to clock it, right? They're going to go back and be like, you lied. And when you do something like that, the blowback is going to be on you. They're going to go, actually, this now impacts your credibility. You said that Candace went out and said something about Erica. By the way, you hear the people in the background going, woo! I'm going to tell you what's happening there too. And you're going to see how this thing really works.
Maybe the Zionists piped in 7K to clap for each of the clappers in that audience. Maybe so.
Point number one that I want to make about what Ben is doing right here is just the stunning hypocrisy of it. Okay. The rules for thee and not for me. I am getting old. My memory is getting a little fuzzy, but I distinctly remember the week that I was gloriously fired from the Daily Wire. And during that week, the CEO of the Daily Wire, at the time it was Jeremy Boring, jumped onto an X space hosted by Lauren Chen and had a conversation with Nick Fuentes where he sang Nick Fuentes' praises and also invited him onto the Daily Wire, okay? Here's a headline because the Huffington Post remembers too. Daily Wire CEO tells white supremacist Nick Fuentes that he's talented and he's very funny. The article goes on.
Cancel Jeremy Boring. Cancel Jeremy Boring. Blood libel. This proves that Daily Wire is an anti-Semitic organization. Look at what its CEO is doing. He's platforming and applauding Nick Fuentes.
During a live-streamed conversation with white supremacist Nick Fuentes last week, the CEO of the Daily Wire, a major right-wing media outlet, praised the prominent fascist influencer and offered only mild criticism about some of his political views, a stark difference from how he has spoken about Fuentes in the past. On March 25th, the Daily Wire CEO Jeremy Boring joined Fuentes on X for a live audio chat room. Boring told Fuentes that he listens to Fuentes' show quite often and that he thinks Fuentes is quote unquote very funny and one of the most talented political influencers, even if he is very concerned about some of what Fuentes says.
And just notice the mainstream media, the legacy media is going to put you in the same bucket of Fuentes regardless of whether you speak out against them or not. You know, they're saying this of the Daily Wire. They're supporting a fascist. This is exactly the tactics that the Zionists are now using against Tucker Carlson, using tactics indistinguishable from the legacy media and how they handled this, calling it, a fascist and saying that this is a major right-wing fascist organization. Just absurd.
Later in the discussion, Boring said that he'd be thrilled to have Fuentes on one of the Daily Wire's shows to debate the media company's popular pundits, some of whom have millions of viewers. This happened. So I want you just to remember this because I feel like people are not appreciating how hypocritical it is that he's now trying to struggle session Megyn Kelly because, he had Fuentes on the show when the Daily Wire position in 2024 was that their CEO could talk to Nick Fuentes publicly, praise Nick Fuentes publicly, and also invite Nick Fuentes onto the Daily Wire platform. Now,
it's pretty ironic, right? But it's not just that. It was the Daily Wire's position that you can platform genocidal maniac Netanyahu, throw him softball questions all day, and boast about it, and then double down on Israel's atrocities. And guess what? Netanyahu is guilty of far more crimes than Nick Fuentes, whatever you think of him, ever was. For impure thoughts, they say this guy is just beyond the pale. But we get to interview and just lob the easiest questions and just fawn over this maniac, this bloodthirsty mass murderer at the Daily Wire, Netanyahu. And it's not just Netanyahu, it's, trans kids activists. And, you had communists being debated by these people too. None of those people are beyond the pale. So they're setting the Overton window in the same way that the legacy liberal establishment wants it to be set. This is the uniparty. This is the Zionist plan to try to retake this narrative that they've just lost with the public.
Now, another point that I'd like to make is the stunning hypocrisy again and again when you stop and you consider that he's pressing Meghan and referring to this as an evil, the thing that I never said or did. But this is the same Ben Shapiro that roots the destruction of Gaza on. He supports and congratulated Randy Fine, who has literally tweeted laughing at photos of dead Palestinian babies. But I guess Tucker Carlson speaking to Nick Fuentes is just so much worse than celebrating, and not just celebrating, interviewing a man who is committing an actual genocide.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
That's not up for debate. That's what they're trying him for. Bibi Netanyahu is committing a genocide, and Ben Shapiro sat down with him last month. And do you guys think he pressed Bibi Netanyahu on the point of a genocide? I don't understand how you could just go out there with your hair on your chest and you're just like, yeah, how dare you? How dare you not make a comment, Meghan, about Tucker Carlson? How dare you not make a comment? I care now about Charlie Kirk now that he's dead. I care about him and what's happening. Candace trying to find out who killed him. That's evil.
Yeah, the striking hypocrisy is being noticed. Let's just say the great awakening of the noticing continues. And it's over stuff like this. Their tactics are backfiring so spectacularly when they don't even see the hypocrisy of their own, judgment and their own machinations. I totally agree with Candace. The only thing I'll push back at is they're not charging Netanyahu in Israel with committing a genocide. They're charging him with fraud and corruption, and he would have gone down for that. That was a major political scandal in Israel in, I think, 2022 and 2023, maybe even earlier than 2022. He was going to go down for that. Those charges are still on the table. They've just been delayed as Netanyahu unfurls this genocide in Gaza and attacks 7 of his neighbors and then says, hey, we need an 8th front. That's propaganda in America. It's just been delayed. That's what they're charging him under. The government of Israel, I hate to say, is totally kind of on board with his plans in Gaza. It's horrifying, but that is the truth. There are dissidents within Israel. They're few and far between.
You're lying. You lie when you have nothing left. So the question becomes, what is Ben actually doing here? Because it's certainly not principled. I think we can put that to bed. It's actually also risky behavior when it comes to Ben Shapiro. Like, he doesn't usually come out of the gate like that. And I think a couple of things are driving this unforced error. One, I do believe that he is actually scared of Nick Fuentes, okay? I think that fear comes from guilt. Nick's backstory, don't care what you think about him. You already know I don't like Nick Fuentes because of how he treated me. But the backstory is compelling. I learned the backstory listening to Jeremy Boring, the former CEO of Daily Wire, sit down with Nick. So right after I'd been fired, and I didn't know what Ben and Jeremy admitted that they did to him. And so I think if you artificially push somebody out of the market, and Ben has never come out and denied anything that Nick Fuentes has said. Also, Jeremy Boring didn't deny it in a conversation with him. So we have to assume the story is true. And given what I know about what happens now, I think, and what Charlie was going through, I think we can all realize that Nick was an 18-year-old kid, like he told Tucker, and now the whole world knows this story. He started asking questions about Israel, and he got artificially pushed out of the market when he had his whole life ahead of him, okay? And now, when they did this because they wanted to rid themselves of Nick Fuentes, who then became angry about it and definitively has said very offensive things on the internet, but also he was 18, 19 years old. Now you see him on Tucker Carlson. You don't like Tucker Carlson, and I think it makes him uncomfortable.
It sure does. That's probably an understatement. I generally agree with Candace. Look, what we have here is Ben Shapiro, who's fearful of facing a debate opponent who's formidable on the Israel issue. And that would be Dave Smith or Nick or someone else that's very studied in this, Norman Finkelstein. They would all mop the floor with him because he doesn't care about the truth about Israel's past, the perverted nature of this relationship. He doesn't even seem to talk about the history of it much because it's indefensible. It's indefensible on the basic tenets of morality outside of, hey, libertarianism or non-interventionist foreign policy. It was a massive land grab, stealing property from people and redistributing it to others on a global scheme, on a global level supported by the US and UK predominantly. So his complaint that this just legitimizes Nick Fuentes, it's like, if I was to debate Nick Fuentes. It's like, what are you talking about? That wouldn't even legitimize you, and Nick is so much bigger than you now in Rumble. You're losing your influence. He's gaining it. People are turning away from the Israel First narrative. Yeah, you still have some viewership, but you are being knocked down pegs by people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes, who, if he wasn't banned from YouTube, he'd probably have more followers than you, by the way. I think he has 5 million on Rumble right now. So that would legitimize Nick Fuentes. No, Nick Fuentes has arrived regardless of what you think and regardless of whether you like it. That's just the truth.
I think we're in Harry Potter, right? And Lord Voldemort thought he killed the baby, and the baby may be lit. I don't even know who the Dark Lord is in this story, but I do know. I don't even know who he who must not be named is in this story, but I do know that with Ben and Nick Fuentes, it's kind of a neither can live while the other survives, and Nick Fuentes seems to have survived, okay? Without advertisers, without sponsors, without connections, with the entire media writing things about him, being put on the ADL's list, he has proven to be quite resilient. And it is in large part due to how hard they fight him that people become curious. It's like, we're watching kids be bombed. Like, how many people have lost their lives in Gaza? And you're telling me the greatest evil is Nick Fuentes? I'm sorry. I think I can survive Nick Fuentes insulting me. I don't feel the need to wheel and deal behind the scenes or, tell Tucker not to host him. I just don't care. It's just really not my business. I'm like Megan. I just don't care.
I totally agree with her. And I think this shows such maturity from Candace Owens, knowing she has a personal beef with Nick Fuentes. But yet she's just acknowledging the truth that Nick has arrived, whether you like it or not. Ben just pretends that, all of Fuentes' followers and all people that lend him credence, at least on the Israel issue, have just been, compromised by Qatar. No, we saw genocide play out in front of our eyes that's killed over 100,000 people. That's why Nick has arrived. So to hear Candace acknowledge this is totally accurate. This is just what's going on here.
Like, okay, if somebody wants to be a fan, they can be a fan of Nick Fuentes. And I sense an insecurity here in the fact that 10 years on from when Ben had this thing that happened to Nick Fuentes that he tells a story about, now Nick Fuentes is still here and Ben's influence is waning. It just factually is, okay?
It is.
Another thing that's happening here, and this is on the point of Megyn Kelly and going back to the woo, making it sound like Ben's got a popular position about me. I sense that the pro-Israel lobby is on the brink of collapse. They are desperate for allies, right? And they're so desperate for allies that they're forcing them away. That's what they're doing to Megyn Kelly, right? They're showing the world right now that they are willing to lie to get what they want. Ben is lying right now to get what he wants. And for whatever reason, the pro-Israel lobby believes that this repeat failed strategy of lying and threatening people is going to work.
Yeah, it's not. I'm totally with her there. Now, I'd clarify. I think the pro-Israel influencers are on the brink of collapse. I don't think the pro-Israel lobby is quite on the brink of collapse. Yeah, American opinion has turned en masse against this catastrophic, unholy union between the United States and Israel. It won't play out in our politics for some time. Certainly not in 2028. I don't think so. Maybe in a decade, because all demographic shifts are showing that. But the Zionist influencers are losing credence, are losing influence, are losing pull on our American politicians gradually. That is true, and that is why they're acting so desperate. And it is backfiring. I think that's the best point, is where are the Zionists out there that are taking a look at this as it's playing out, as this is just completely losing Israel ground in this propaganda war, in this war for information and the information that would lead people to the truth and discard this relationship? Where are those Zionists saying, Ben, Mark, Randy, what are you doing? This isn't working. We need to retool. We need to try something else. I just don't see those voices. They're all hysterical, thinking that a Holocaust is around the corner, but denying the Holocaust playing out in Gaza. That's where these people are at.
Now, you might be asking, well, how is Megyn Kelly being threatened here? This is exactly what Ben just did on stage. That is exactly the moral blackmail that Charlie was speaking about in the last days of his life, okay? Ben is morally blackmailing Megyn, right? He's sitting across from her. The threat is her reputation. He's standing there and he's saying, Candace is attacking a grieving widow and accusing her of murdering Charlie Kirk. Will you disavow this evil on the spot? And he's got these fake people going, woo, yeah. And you can see Megan's uncomfortable because she's like, well, did she say that? Man, like maybe that is evil. Like does that happen? And he doubles down. He's like, yes. She said, Seth Dillon murdered Charlie Kirk. Will you disavow this evil on the spot? That is moral blackmail. Are you a better person than to accept Candace Owens, who has attacked a grieving widow and is saying to that grieving widow that you murdered your own husband? That is moral blackmail. Now, speaking of on the spot, everything that you just saw happen here, and Megyn Kelly, I hope you see this. Truly, you guys, send this clip to her. This is really important. It is pre-planned. It is not organic. The supporters are not organic. The questions are not organic.
That's the truth. It's moral blackmail. So beyond the lies that Shapiro told, and he did, they're provable. She hasn't said that. And I guarantee if she actually had said that Erica Kirk or Seth Dillon was responsible for Charlie Kirk's murder, Ben Shapiro would tweet that. He would tweet that clip. And guess what? He hasn't. Oh, that must be a coincidence that he hasn't tweeted it. No, it's because she didn't do it. And he is such a megalomaniacal manipulator to try to draw his friend, Megyn Kelly, his friend, right? She considers them both friends, and she doesn't take a side in this, per se. You know, again, whether you think that's right or wrong, I have my own opinion. I do think it's worthy to take a side in this. But Ben Shapiro's trying to manipulate Megyn Kelly to her side via falsities and manipulate her into denouncing Candace Owens, like struggle sessions try to get people to denounce what is right or wrong. This is exactly what's playing out. It's pretty crazy to see this play out in the right when, you know, conservatives, I think, rightly pointed out the absurdity of the liberal establishment doing this. Like, you can't platform or talk to this person. And, you know, the conservatives saying, well, you're a snowflake for that attitude. You should debate the issues on their merits and let the chips fall where they may. That's how Ben Shapiro himself got his political rise, speaking on college campuses. Facts don't care about your feelings, right? Well, in this case, they don't care about your feelings, Ben. The facts are you're a liar, you're a Zionist, your side's losing the grip on the American populace. It'll be a while until it plays out politically, but you are losing that grip. And I'm here for every moment of it. But I do want to hear from what you guys think. Let me know down below. Is Candace Owens right about this? Is the pro-Israel lobby just losing its stranglehold on American politics? Are they on the brink of collapse? Is it just the influencers? Are they going to succeed in trying to take Tucker Carlson down? Let me know in the comments down below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Also subscribe to Candace Owens. Awesome segment. Great job, Candace. Keep fighting for this. Really appreciate you. And if you're watching this and you want to help support the channel, please consider becoming a YouTube member. You can do that by clicking the join button below. And if you do that, I will give you the benefit of getting access to all of my videos that are members only right now before they go live to the general public. You'll immediately be able to see all those videos. Also, if you want a free copy of my first book, Compact of the Republic, click the link in the description below. It'll shoot you off to a site. Plug in your email. I'll send it right to you just for free via PDF form. No obligation there. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.